Hello and welcome to Facebook Live together with, I'm Sally Thibault, together with Sandy Gurney. We're actually doing a bit of a test because this is the first time we've used this particular platform, which allows you to answer any questions or ask any questions that you have. We're going to spend the next few minutes just talking a little bit about some of the modalities that have worked really well for children living with autism, and in particular a kind of blended modalities of oils and essential oils and tapping, EFT, and diet, and some other things to use in the classroom. I'll give you a little bit of my background first, and then I'll introduce Sandy. I am a professional speaker and counsellor and author of 2 books, David's Gift, Asperger's Life and Love, which was the story of our journey following our son's diagnosis of autism back in 1997 was when he was diagnosed. I'm also an EFT practitioner, certified emotional freedom technique practitioner. I use the modality of tapping, and I particularly work with women now to help them create success in their lives. Just a little bit about our background as far as autism goes. David, our son, was diagnosed, as I said, in 1997 when he was 12. We've been a long journey. David was one of the first children diagnosed with Asperger's and given an IEP for Asperger's in the Catholic education system. So that's how long ago it was. We had a very challenging journey. There was very little information around at the time, very little support. So our journey was quite traumatic. However, today he'll be 32 in June, and he is getting married in May. We are heading off to Canada in May for his wedding. He's got a great job. So our journey has been tumultuous, let's say, but we've learned a lot. It was a lot of learnings about what worked and what didn't work, and there were many years when you just think you have your act together and then something would happen. So there was different aspects and different times in our lives. So that was our journey. Over the years, I've worked with parents and teachers, healthcare providers to work with understanding what the impact of the diagnosis is like on families in particular. And that's where I feel that tapping, emotion freedom technique, has been amazing in helping to reduce stress and anxiety. EFT, you tap on various meridian points in the body, acupressure points in the body, helps to lower cortisol. And of course, for our mums, and especially for our kids living with autism, their stress levels are always really high. And just recently, we've really found some amazing results using essential oils, and more research coming out about the impact of essential oils. So that's a little bit about me. And now I'd like to introduce Sandy. And of course, Sandy is now the most prominent administrator on the Asperger's Parent Connect page. And you will have seen Sandy talking a lot, sharing a lot of her journey. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Sandy. Where are you, and a little bit of your story before we go into this.
Hi, Sally. Hi, everybody. It's lovely to see you all, or not see you all. Yes, I'm out back at the moment. I'm in Charleville. We're waiting to see whether we get any of this rain from Cyclone Debbie. But I have to drive 10 hours to Brisbane in the next day or two. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers and wondering how it's all going to go, but it'll be fine. I know it'll be fine. I'm used to driving, so it's nothing I can't handle, really. Yes, most of you know me. I have children are on the spectrum, and, well, it's been a journey. And I was just thinking this week, if my 23-year-old self, if I knew what I knew now, and one of the things was, I wish I'd known Sally and Chris when I was 23. Things would have been so much different and so much less stressful, because I've learnt so much from them. The first, I went to a seminar down the Gold Coast. We drove, my friend and I drove, the 10 hours across, 8 to 10, depending on, how long it takes us. And that was the beginning. Like, it felt so good to know that we weren't alone, and that we were with other people who also understood. And there was a lot of parents. Chris introduced us to the food because we had one of our children react to a certain brand of bread. And I know the only thing that I'd changed in his diet was the bread. I was giving him more of the bread, so it was like a build up in his system. And so Chris helped us with that. And then Sally has helped me with the tapping. I've just become so much more confident in myself. I think you can see how I've changed a little bit in some of my pictures on the page. So much more at ease about things. And now the oils, which are totally awesome. Our Deaco is having great success, and Talyn. And actually all of the kids, I've used them on 3 of the children so far, and we've only just started in the last, this will be our 2nd week that we've started to really do it. So it's been really amazing. So yeah, once again, wish I had have known all of this when I was 23, you know. So,
Sandy,
yeah,
can you talk a little bit, can you share a little bit about what oils you have been using and what you have noticed? In particular, let's start with Deaco, how old he is and what was going on before, and the change you saw in him after just a couple of days on using the oils.
Okay, well, we had we've got a new teacher at school, and she's beautiful. She's a lovely young teacher, but she's fresh out of uni, and but we were trying to find a way, and we were just it wasn't working. Like, it didn't matter what we did, we couldn't seem to find a balance, and that's all I ever try to, is I just try and find a balance with the kids. And so I'd spoken with Chris because I'd said, you know, I went through all the kids and I said, well, this child's doing this, and this child's doing this, and this child's, and Chris said, right, you know, and wait, which child was coming up on the radar more so. And at this point it was Talyn. But sometimes that happens with autism. You're going for one child, but then something else, and you go, oh, but I need it for that child, you know. So as it worked out, we tried it on Deaco. I said to Chris about Talyn being a bit bossy with Deaco, and he's very firm, he's very authoritative with Deaco. And then Deaco was just a bit jittery and in class and a few things. And I spoke with Chris about it, and I'd already been sent, well, because I wanted to balance Deaco out, so that was what I got. I got Balance, the oil, which that was the first one. And then the other one was frankincense. And that one has been really, really good too. And the first day that I did it with Deaco, I put frankincense on one side of the collar and Balance on the other side. And, well, we also brought into play a number system as well. At the same, we had 5, and he got a 15 the first day. So a combination of the oils and the numbers, you know. And then we've also done a bit of tapping with Deaco as well. But I'm still learning about the child tapping. So, you know, I'm looking forward to bringing that more into play as well. And the kids see mummy tapping as well, and they can see that I'm not as stressed, you know, and that I'm, and also with the frankincense, I had a sore leg, and I put it on my leg as well, because Chris said, what is it? If in doubt, get the frankincense out, you know, which I love that one. And I was listening to your talk at the DoTERRA after the DoTERRA conference, and I went, because I had a sore knee, and got the frankincense on it, and it felt so much better. Like, it wasn't aching. It was wonderful. It was really, really good.
Let's go. I know it's fantastic. It's one of those oils you always have on hand. And the beauty about oils is you just use, even though they might be expensive to begin with, but you use such a little bit. You only need a drop. We're so used to sort of, you know, smothering ourselves and stuff, but you only need to use a tiny, just one drop, and in some oils, in some other oils, some fractionated coconut oil is what we use. And so diluted for the children, and that can make a huge difference. But can I ask you a little bit again about Deaco? So tell me how old he is. He's the youngest, isn't he?
Yes, he's 7.
7. So what was going on before you began the oils with him?
He was everywhere. He was very hard to, well, I know I keep saying balance out because he was. He, he won't sit down at dinner. To get him to go to bed, he will come out a million times, 1,000,001, and at school, he can't sit still in class. He's quite fidgety. And if anything's going on, he's quite easily distracted. So he needs that one-on-one support to be brought back to task. Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about what was going on with him and Talyn then.
Well, Talyn seems to think that he's the mother.
How old is Talyn? How old is he?
Talyn is 10. He's just turned 10 in February. And he seems to think that he's the boss. And most of the time I don't have to say stuff because Tal will get in before me. And I have to pull him back and go, hang on, I'm the mummy. That's my job, and I have to keep reminding him of that. So we also did the oils with Talyn because Talyn was away at camp at the time. So I saw a chance to start using the oils and just having that one-on-one time with Deaco. And it was good and it was very much needed. And even Deaco said to me yesterday, he come up beside me because we've also been using these emotional ones, the emotional pack, and which have been really, really wonderful. They're on the rollers. And when Talyn got home, I started to use a few of those on him, like the cheer and the forgive. And Talyn says, I better put some of this on because that way if something happens, then I can forgive them, And that's the way he sees it. But, hey, it's working.
I love it.
It's really working.
So
he and actually yesterday we had something happen that apparently Deaco was getting picked on at school and Talyn defended him, which I wouldn't have thought that with Talyn because of the way he is at home with Deaco. He's constantly on Deaco's back sometimes. And Deaco come up to me yesterday morning and he said, can we please keep using these, Mum? Because Talyn's being so nice to me and we are just getting along so well like this. And I just went, yep, righto, bud, we'll do that, So it was just like awesome outcome day. Yeah, hallelujah, kind of.
You're reminding me of when my son was little and we used to use essential oils back then, and he loves and still does anything with citrus or peppermint. And it's interesting because I do too. I love that kind of citrus blends, but we used to pop a little some orange and lemon and peppermint on must have been lemon, lavender and peppermint, I can't remember, whatever it was, but it had lavender in it. But it was on a tissue in a plastic bag that he'd put in his pocket. And whenever he was feeling stressed or overwhelmed, he would just take the tissue out because the kids didn't know what it was. So that was the other thing, we want to just not make the kids any more different than they already are. So he would just take it out and just have a smell of the tissue, put it back in his pocket, that was it. And he used to come and ask me for it. Similar to what you were saying about Deaco, I just used to rub a little bit of lavender on the back of his neck at night and just on his feet. And he, used to come and say, that makes me feel really good. I like that smell. And I really noticed a difference when we were using the oils with him. It just seemed to calm him down.
That's what we're finding too. Absolutely. Deaco, I think I was going to say when he's going to bed, he will come out like he really does. He just keeps coming out, and I keep saying, "Go to bed, Deaco, go to bed." Since I've started using the oils, I put lavender in his bath. And then I've also been putting the balance, just a couple of drops in the bath. And then when Deaco goes to bed, I put the lavender oil, rub it on the base of his feet. And that's working wonders. The child doesn't come out. He just says, Mum, I need my oils. And I go, righto, bud. And I go in, do the one drop, and he's gone to sleep. I cannot believe it, but it's working. We are having great success with it.
What I love about the oils too is there's now a lot of science behind them. And as Sandy mentioned before, Chris and I were at the DoTERRA Convention last week, where they were sharing much of the research that is published, but also some research that is not yet published. It's very, very exciting about what's happening. And I think for parents with raising kids on the spectrum, it's really important to have the science behind it too, because you can go down the path of all these modalities, trying something that works. There was something that really came out from that convention too. Dr. David Hill was talking about essential oils work really well when they're used all the time. You don't start and stop them. They work. Children and love them because they keep them balanced. Exactly what you said. It just helps balance their emotions. And that, what I think to me was extremely important. I know with David, it was just, you just get a few things happening and then bang, something would happen at school or something would happen to a friend. And it's almost like you just get a handle on a different modality and something would happen. The wonderful thing about essential oils is that you can have them and to fall back on. There's some great blends. And in that, the secret Facebook group, what we've done is for those who would choose to join us in our sort of little oils tribe that we've got, we've actually created a secret Facebook group where it's a balance. As Sandy, you were saying before, it's not just the oils, it's not just the tapping, it's not just diet. Everything has to work together in order to create what I believe is less anxiety for everybody.
Absolutely.
And especially mum.
Absolutely. Yes, you have to do so many things, and like you cannot rely on one thing, but it's a matter of just finding the balance between all of those things. And it's also like the way I hear the word it evolves and you evolve with it. So therefore, you know, once we got a handle on food, and then we went on to the tapping, which has been wonderful. And then now we're into the oils, and look at what successes we are having. Like it's a wonderful balance that we've got now. We've had some really good days these last couple of weeks. And his teacher said to me yesterday, because he said, "Oh, you need to talk to my teacher like this," and I went, "Oh, okay, righto." And then she walked out and she said to me, "He got a 50." Oh, she goes, "Excellent day, awesome day today." And I went, "He told me he had a bad day like this." And he looked at me and went, "Just tricking," like it. And she said, "He got a 15 today."
Oh.
And I went, "Great," you know. And I said to her, "Do we need a parent?" Hey?
Sorry, we've got a bit of a delay here. So can you just explain what the 15 means for those who haven't seen it before?
Okay, so the 15, we were struggling with Talyn in the classroom. He couldn't gauge his day. He didn't know, they'd say, "Oh, you know, if you're good," but he needed it broken down. So they broke it into sessions of the morning session, the middle session, and then the afternoon session at school. So, and that he had a 0 to 5 register, 1 to 5 register, 1 being not really good choices, to 5 being ready to work, sitting at our desk, and waiting patiently for the teacher. So he had to do all of those things. And we have a little one that goes on his desk, and it's got little Velcro dots on it. So, you know, as the teacher's walking around and she can see he's doing work, she puts, the little dot on a 5, you know. Yeah, he's doing the work, he's getting it done. And so Talyn needed to at least get 10. And so with Deaco in the classroom as well, I thought that maybe we needed the same thing. So I asked them to do the exact same thing, but in Deacon's room. And I hadn't brought it into play this year with Talyn for some reason. I was a bit delayed because we had a new teacher, and sometimes, sometimes different teachers have different strategies. So I was trying to figure out the strategy and how to work in with that teacher. And the first day I ended up bringing it in and saying, "Look, can we use this in the classroom? It will be easier for you to monitor his behaviour He knows this system. He understands the numbers. And she went, yep, sure, let's have a go. He came out of school that day and he goes, I got a 5, a 5 and a 4. Like, you know, you can't ask for any better than that. Like, only 1 point off of 15, you know. And Deaco was exactly the same. Got a 15 the first day. So it was like an awesome, awesome day, you know, because they needed their day broken down. The whole day was just too massive for them to understand what it was that what was expected. So when they had that visual on the table, they could keep going, you know. And the deacon's teacher finds now that if he's not, you know, not on track, she just, you know, fiddles with the number and brings it down a bit. And then straight away he's back on task, you know, what's needed. And then, you know, she said he sniffs the oils, you know, as he's needed. So, yeah, it's working really, really well.
And that's the thing, you know, you want them to be able to create their own way of dealing with this. You know, the fact that, you know, if he sniffs yours, he knows he needs to calm down, or he knows he's feeling, so maybe you're feeling a bit anxious. And that's what you want. That's what I love about this process, is you're putting the power back in the children's hands. So they can tell you what it feels like for them, and then you can respond with something. And that's the same with tapping. Because in tapping, what we do is we ask the children to say how they feel. So, and I know with my son, you know, back in the days, when sometimes it would take me hours at night to figure out what had gone on and how he was feeling. And he used to use general terms like, they annoy me, or I wish they wouldn't be so loud, or whatever it is. But it would take me hours to figure out, okay, what actually happened and how did it make you feel? What tapping does is when we tap, we let the children talk about how they're feeling. So they get very attuned with, I have this feeling in my tummy and it's related to an emotion. So I have this feeling of anger and I can feel it in my tummy. Or I have this feeling of tiredness and I can feel it in my head. So we're acknowledging the feeling, we're getting them in touch with their feelings, and we're giving them a solution to how they can work for them. And so what I see is happening is that what we're doing is we're empowering the children to do what they need to do. So it's like a lifelong skill that we're giving them. They're not, it's not out of their hands.
This is called, like the teachers call it, well, what they're learning to do is called self-regulation. So they're learning to self-regulate their body rather than someone having to say, you need to behave yourself, or you need to, they can bring themselves in check with it and go, okay, I'm not doing the right thing, I'm making a poor decision, you know, and it's that thinking that we want them to start doing and learning, you know, and it takes time. It's not something that, you know, just happens overnight. You once again, it's coming back to that balance and finding that, you know, okay, what can I help them with, you know, like sort of thing. There are things that we put in place, you know, that, and sometimes you have to put things in place sneakily without them knowing, but
that's right. That's right.
And that's how you introduce it. Once they realize they're already doing it, oh wow, okay, I'm doing this, I'm okay. Yeah, absolutely so.
Sandy, you want to talk a little bit, the issue I think for a lot of parents and mums is their own stress levels and anxiety. And you touched on it a little bit when we first began this broadcast, how when your eldest was born, you went through postnatal depression, and, you know, having 4 of your 5 children with autism, there must have been some times when it's been a real struggle for you.
Yes, I went through postnatal pretty bad. What I didn't realize was I still had it when I had my second child. She's not on the spectrum, and then the third child, well, I sort of was really difficult. It got to the point where I did try to take my own life, and I just didn't want to do it anymore, in all honesty. but I didn't have any tools. I didn't know, and one thing that I've always done was I've always stepped away from Western medicine to a degree. I've seen Chiron healers, which is the body's energy, recognizing the body's energy. And because I found that tablets didn't really work for me, in some cases made me worse, which was what happened. I'd reacted to tablets that were just, they didn't sit well. And I find, like, don't get me wrong, Western medicine does have its place, and I understand when you're at the hospital and you need to take medication, I take it, but for things like depression, and for me, I found a lot of alternative things helped me, and the Chiron healing with an actual Chiron healer was good for me. And like, Sal, I haven't turned back. Like, it used to be like a 6-monthly thing. I used to, I'd talk to my psychologist, or I'd get a message via one of the medical people out in the bush, and then the psychologist would call me and he'd say, Sandy, you really need to be, taking medication. Do you know how long it's been since I've actually had to do that? I haven't had to do that. Like, I'm just thinking now, and I'm going, I haven't had to do that in ages. And I know that it's the tapping that's been helping me with that. It's just brought my levels right down, and I've figured out patterns, of people or certain things, and now the oil's coming into play as well has been another good thing, so all I can say is don't be shut down to alternative ideas, as a mum.
And I think too, I think one of the things that I know Sandy and I talk about, Chris and I talk about all the time, is that as a mum, we have to do our inner work. We have to put ourselves, you hear it all the time, put yourself first, but unless you know how to do that, it's impossible. But the tapping and the oils, and I know for Sandy, who's just completed a triathlon on the weekend, as if she is an other wonderful person achieving a goal. But it's the ability to really balance that for you, because as mums, when we go down, the whole family goes down with a center core. And I know myself, my journey is a little bit the same. I, got to right to the end myself, because of the judgment, because of you constantly on guard, because of, the ASD is a hidden disability, so people make assumptions about the children and their behavior. So if they're making judgments and assumptions about you at the same time, and I found that incredibly difficult. I'd been the type of person, I think, I had my mind was this picket fence, and, I was going to have a picket fence and the lace curtains, and everybody was lovely, and I was going to get married and have children who did all the right things, whatever the right things were, and, we were going to live happily ever after. And of course, it wasn't like that at all. And so, especially when we felt a lot of times we were very isolated from others because we couldn't go a lot of places. This is we're going back 20 years and more, 30 years now. We couldn't go a lot of places because David would act up, and having known very little about what autism was, I thought it was me. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong as a parent. And, you'd get that thing, from well-meaning people who'd say, just give him to me for the weekend and I'll sort him out for you. All that type of thing that just falls in on you. And what I found, especially the energy psychology technique of tapping for me has been able to help me really heal a lot of those times. It's helped me deal a lot with the stress levels, and of course, became a practitioner because I could see the benefit. And to me, mums using oils, mums using tapping, mums, working out or exercising in some way that suits you and eating a well-balanced diet, so incredibly important, because the Heart Math Institute in the US has actually done some studies that show that whatever energy you're feeling, whatever emotion you're feeling, it actually extends about 3 meters or 9 feet. So I liken it to explaining, if you ever walked into a room when someone's having an argument and they stop talking and you go, oh, well, wait a minute, what just happened? Well, for our kids, children living with autism in particular, they are highly sensitive to energy. So if you're feeling really stressed and worn down and upset, they know that. In fact, I often say to people, whenever I was down, that was the time something went wrong with David. Because he would feel this energy and he didn't understand what was going on. So it's incredibly important for us as mums too, to be really mindful of making sure that you are doing things, and things like tapping and oils and watching what you eat, being very mindful of the food that you eat goes a long way to helping.
Absolutely. There was a friend of mine, she was a bit stressed at one point, and I said to her, what's the start of your day like? Do you just get up and start getting ready for work and getting the kids ready and doing their breakfast and, all that sort of stuff? And she went, yeah, I do. And I went, darling, you need to stop and take time for you. You need to remember what you like to do. Because the first thing we do as mothers, we forget about us. Because if we are seen to be doing something for ourselves, we are judged. Automatically we're judged, or we're being selfish, or because that seems to be the way of the world these days. Judgment is like very high. It's the first thing people do, and they don't even realize they're doing it, because once again, it's a pattern that's being taught to them, or, it's just something that was set when they were young, And I said to her, okay, take a step back, 4:30 in the morning, because I haven't been getting any time to myself, because even when I was getting up at 6, I still had a child sitting on the step with me. And so I wasn't getting any of that alone time. So I've been getting up, at 4:30 quite happily. And this is going to bed at 10. I probably should go to bed a little bit earlier, but I'm getting enough sleep. And I'm so much happier when it's still dark at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm under the stars, and I'm doing my morning preparation. And for me, that's, listening for a word for today, and, reading my Bible. And then I'm looking for tapping things, like I'll see if Sal's put up a new video. And usually Sally's pretty on the mark of what's going on in my life at the time, and I go, I just needed that one,
How real is that, actually?
That's perfect. She knows me too well, that woman. I don't know how she knows. And I do that, and then I just sit. I stop and I sit, and the kids by that time they're starting to get up, and they come out to me, and I kiss and hug, and they know where I am. And they just come back and forward to me. And they're, it seems if mum's happy, then they're happy. It's work, it's, and if you don't have that preparation, it's so important. So important.
And the other thing about it is that when you are less stressed, you are able to cope more with what goes on. Because when we're highly stressed, high levels of cortisol, we go into the flight, fight, and freeze response, which is a throwback to the claw and fang jungles, when you were supposed to do that. You had the blood flow would leave the frontal lobes of the brain to extend into the arms and the legs in order for you to do something when you're under fear of dying, basically, or being attacked. And that's what happens to us when we live in this constant state of stress and anxiety. We can't think clearly. So we have a tendency to react rather than to
I've lost you, Sal.
Right.
Oh, there you go. You're back. I've got you back now. Sorry.
Okay. I'm back, but Sandy's not. We might have lost our internet. So I will end this now. Thank you so much for everybody for being on. I've actually put a link up. If you would like to speak to Kris Barrett to learn more about oils, to learn more about our special group that we have provided to help parents raising children living with autism to create calmer, peaceful households, please click on the link and then book in for a chat with Kris, and she can certainly help. Kris is actually just a bit under the weather today and couldn't join us, so she's madly doing a lot of stuff. So we look forward to sharing more with you, and we look forward to regular Facebook Lives with you. Please pop any comments below if you have any questions. We'll be back on the page later on. All right, thanks a lot. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.